All right, so continuing on now. So I'm going to take this pi over 2. Now, see how I left that space in there in between the two? I advise you guys to graph your sine wave first. So that'd be 2 sine negative pi over 2 plus pi over 2 equals 2 sine of 0. That's going to equal 0. So 2 sine of 0 plus pi over 2. Sine of pi over 2 is 1. 2 times 1 is 2. Pi over 2, so that's going to be 2 sine of pi over 2 plus pi over 2, which is pi. Sine of pi is 0, and I get 0. 2 sine of pi plus pi over 2, that's 3 pi over 2. The sine of 3 pi over 2 is negative 1, so that's negative 2. And then finishing it up, I get this. That's 2 times 0, which is, oops. Nope, that was right. Sorry, I'm having a brain fart, guys. 0. All right. So on my graph now, I'm going to go ahead and mark that up. Now, when you make your x-axis, that's going to be a little bit confusing. Really, there is no right way, there is no wrong way to make your x-axis. Just depending on what you do will make your life either easy or hard. I'm going to go by pi over 4s because it gives me a little bit of space in between here. Again, there is no right way, there is no wrong way. There's just things that can make your life easier. So negative pi over 2 goes here, 0, 2, pi over 2, 0, pi, negative 2, 3 pi over 2, 0, 2 pi. And your graph is going to look like this. Okay. So in our graph, do we see how we have this midline? Oops, let me erase those. Let me go the opposite way. How we have these midline values. Well, anywhere your graph crosses is going to result in a vertical asymptote. So since my graph crossed here at negative pi over 2, I'm going to have this thing called a vertical asymptote. A vertical asymptote happens where your graph is undefined. Let me go this way and just undo that. So here I'm going to do a nice little vertical asymptote. Here I'm going to do a vertical asymptote. Here I'm going to do a vertical asymptote. Here, here, and here. And the reason why I have vertical asymptotes at that point is because now I'm going to be graphing the cosecant graph. Now I'll be graphing that cosecant graph, which is equal to 1 over sine. So if I find the cosecant in our equation of, say, like negative pi over 2, that would have been 2 sine. Sorry, I'm really screwing this up. So cosecant, let me start over on that. Cosecant is equal to 1 over sine. So at this point, if I would have graphed the cosecant curve, this would have been all under 1. This would have been under 1, which would have made this sine of 0 be under here, which would have made me have 1 over 0, which would have been your undefined. And whenever it's undefined, that's why it's going to be a vertical asymptote. Another way to do this is by looking at the y values. I have a y value of 0, I have a y value of 2, and I have a y value of negative 2. Which one is numerically in the middle? 0. 0 falls between 2 and negative 2. And because that is what is equal to 0, or at all of these values of 0 here, the pi over 2, so this answer here is 0, the 3 pi over 2, the pi over 2, the negative pi over 2 becomes your vertical asymptotes. Again, that's because the mid-level is 0. So the x value is where it happens. That's these ones here. And that's your vertical asymptotes here. And then all you have to do to graph your secant or your cosecant graph is to kind of flip this. So this is a parabola that opens down. I'm going to flip it, and it's going to open here. This opens upward in between pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2. So I'm going to flip it along that minimum, and it's going to be downwards. And then I do it the same here. And then I'm just going to go ahead and delete all of these values between. I'm going to take out that cosecant graph, or that cosine graph, and get that. So your cosecant graph, as you can tell, should have this big gap in the middle. Oops. Should have a big gap in the middle. The cosecant graph and the secant graph is a series of up and down parabolas that are separated by vertical asymptotes. So, for this part over here, your vertical phase shift, these two are the same thing. These don't switch. These two don't switch. So I'm going to go left pi over 2. These two don't switch. 2 pi over b is equal to 2 pi again. These are not the same. Remember that an amplitude is half the difference between your max and your min. Do I have a max? No. Do I have a min? No. So therefore, your amplitude is none. I can't find half the distance of 2 points that don't exist. And that's the only difference. So doing number 2, hopefully we can go through this a little bit more quickly. My A is -2, my B is 2, my C is pi, my D is -2. I'm graphing the secant graph, which means I am looking at the cosine function. The amplitude of the cosine function, so this red cosine, it would be the absolute value of -2, which is 2. The period is 2 pi divided by b. So that's 2 pi divided by 2, which is pi. The horizontal phase shift I'm going to come back to. The vertical shift is down 2 because of this. Okay, because I have these two, because b does not equal 1 or c does not equal 0, because I have one of those two things happening. In this case, I have both. I gotta find the adjusted key points. So I'm going to set 2x plus pi to equal 0. I get 2x to equal -pi. I get x to equal -pi over 2. So because it's negative, that means I have to go left pi over 2. This value and this answer should be exactly the same thing. So I did 2x plus pi to equal pi over 2. That gives me 2x to equal a -pi over 2. X equals -pi over 4. So I get -pi over 2, -pi over 4. 2x plus pi to equal pi. That gives me 2x to equal 0. So this is going to give me x equals 0. 2x plus pi to equal 3 pi over 2. 2x to equal pi over 2. X to equal pi over 4. That's going to be here. 2x plus pi to equal 2 pi. 2x to equal pi. X equals pi over 2. That's my last one. So again, for my function here, I'm going to use my reciprocal of cosine. So that's -2 cosine of 2 times negative pi over 2 plus pi minus 2. This is going to give me a 0 inside. The cosine of 0 is 1. 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. Minus 2 is negative 4. So 2 times negative pi over 4 is a negative pi over 2. Negative pi over 2 plus pi is pi over 2. The cosine of pi over 2 is 0. 0 times negative 2 is 0. Minus 2 is negative 2. Negative 2 cosine of 2 times 0 plus pi minus 2. This becomes pi. The cosine of pi is negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 2 is 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. So 2 times pi over 4 is pi halves, plus pi is 3 pi over 2. The cosine of 3 pi over 2 is 0. 0 times negative 2 is 0. Minus 2 is negative 2. And then finally, one more time. Inside my parentheses, I get 2 pi. The cosine of 2 pi is 1. 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. Minus 2 is negative 4. So there's my values. So for my grid, I'm going to go easy here. I'm going to go by pi halves. By pi fourths. And I'm just going to have that much. Again, don't overthink your x-axis. Don't try to do too much with them. Negative pi over 2. I'm down here at negative 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, and I'm going to pause here and I'll come back to finish this recording.